Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Ji ayanu, pakhairagale, ni hao, junashumme, washmale. Ohai gunzaimas, guten Morgen, hola, boyor, privyet, kaifahal. Hale shuma chatore, ahlan wasal, marhaba, buna, mucho, gracias, suavi, bhalli kare aaya, hosh ghal din. Anayo hasayo, khuya mora, chivato, jihal, yod, kalimera, and a very warm welcome to each and everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching What This Morning alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Ms. Haja Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I believe that it's a great day, but today, during the day, I think that it's going to be hot too as well. But having said that, first things first, hello Haja, how are you doing today?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for introducing me. So weather is changing and certainly I can feel that on my health because I have a flu today, so forgive me if not performing well. So having said that, I'm doing wonderfully well. And how are you, Shahzad? And I believe that you are really busy in the pre-nuptial sessions at your house, and especially in Pakistani household and subcontinent household, we have a whole lot of what you call pre-wedding festivities with the dance practices and with whatnot. So do you want to pontificate over that?
Sure, I would love to quantificate over this because, ladies and gentlemen, there are a few days when, I would certainly kind of stick to that certain value, which I keep on sharing with my viewers as well, that there are a few days when you just really need to wake up, dress up and show up. And that's exactly what I did today. And it's because of the fact that I was struggling early in the morning. I might be struggling as of now. And I'm pushing myself to give you as much energy as I can. And it's because of the fact that, just when, the weather starts to settle up a little bit, it's a little slightly colder and, people do not feel warm at all, all of a sudden the entire Pakistan thinks that, hey, you know what, this is the right time to get married. And such is an example of my first cousin. He happens to be my chachu's son as well. It's his wedding and he's a younger brother. So we were there practicing, dancing and, all of that. But, there was this very interesting argument I had with my wife.
Okay.
And, so Haja, the interesting argument was that my wife actually said that, hey, you know what, we should actually leave our kids behind to their Nano.
Okay.
So Nano actually happens to be the grandmother, so obviously the mother of my wife as well. But having said that, my take on this was that, this is the time which I as a father get with my children to enjoy, to dance, to celebrate, and then the children, because when we were growing up, I don't remember that our parents have left us behind anywhere and then went on for a wedding or whatnot, because we were 7 children. They couldn't have left us anywhere anyways. So imagine, that's exactly why, that we have these cordial relations in between our chachus and mamus and uncles and the extended family. And I pretty much know everybody, so may it be, my father's popo, or may it be, somebody elderly, I would know that, the kind of relationship they have with us. And that's exactly what I want for my children, that, once they grow up, they would know that, okay, this is Umar Bhai, this is Chachu, this is my Chachu.
And I think shadis or the weddings are the best festival to meet such kind of people, because usually you are not meeting them, and especially because we are living in a very busy life, so it's the best occasion to but why is your wife insisting on, placing your kids in their dada's place?
See, I think, it's a valid reason for them as well. And the valid reason, obviously, first of all, ladies love to dress up, and then, when they dress up, they certainly do not want toddlers to kind of mess up their,
that's true.
Clothes which are perfectly ironed as well. So she was like that, just because that, you won't be the one looking after them, because, over here in Pakistani weddings, we have the male corner on a different side, and then we have the female corner on a different side, and there's no mingling in between. So the kids would rarely come to, where they would see a lot of uncles sitting down in a drawing room as well. And, so it's definitely the mothers looking after the kids. But having said that, for all of that little time, fathers do want to spend with their sons or daughters as well. So for everybody who's out there, please make sure that, that you do not leave your kids behind. And these days, God forbid, if they're not feeling well, I think that's a very different reason. But having said that, so it was a bigger argument. And then the argument, I think, settled down, when my father actually called my wife and was like, Anji, beta ji, so what's the plan? And, she never knew that, that my father was going to call. And even I never knew that my father was going to call and ask, because when you are a bigger family, you're not traveling in one car, you're traveling in 2 or 3 cars, so you really need to make necessary arrangements. So it was an argument. I never felt great about it. I had to do another show, so I went on to that show and it was on top of my head. And I was like, I think my productivity is going down. And then all of a sudden, when I started my show, I was like, okay, I think I feel fine now.
Yes, so you came into your own zone. So starting our day with the news, which
and very quickly, for all of those people who are actually deciding on the dates, please make sure that you keep a weekend as your wedding date as well, because working days it gets difficult for your cousins and family members, all right?
I think the person who is attending that, he's thinking like that. The person who are arranging that, they have certainly keep into the mind that if they get the marquees on that particular date, now because everyone wants to have their shadis or weddings on the weekends, but marquees are usually, I think, becoming a luxury and such a rare places where you don't even get the bookings in
But
advance.
Haja, you know, if we can get like 2 patients on 1 bed in a hospital, why can't we get 2 couples in 1 marquee? I think that's a question.
I think it usually happens, but obviously depends upon the space. So starting off our day, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif said that Pakistan Navy multinational Aman 23 exercise would pave the way to make the region more peaceful and secure with the combined efforts by all stakeholders. Prime Minister, who was the chief guest at the culmination ceremony of the exercise held in the North Arabian Sea, lauded Pakistan Navy for successfully hosting the exercise for promoting peace and security in the region. And I think when I was coming to the office for quite some time, I've been watching these posters, and obviously it's a great feat to achieve, and such sort of exercises make sure that our standing military or our standing forces it's ready and are its best, right?
Exactly, and Pakistan Navy is quite regular at it. And, you know, in fact, all the armed forces are very regular with their exercises, but it happens to be one of the biggest ones as well.
Yes.
And, you know, it's a big event, and, you know, to see, you know, how well our armed forces are actually prepared, God forbid, if there's any untoward activity, and, you know, if there's anybody who's actually thinking against the ideology or the sovereignty of Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our armed forces all prepped up.
That's true.
Alhamdulillah.
So, Alhamdulillah, moving on to another top story, which is about International Childhood Cancer Awareness Day, which is being observed today to express support to the children and adolescents with the cancer, the survivors and their families. This year theme of the day is Better Survival, which is achievable through your hands. And obviously, we have seen, especially with the patients who have family members, how when they're infected with this very deadly disease called cancer, how their identity is changed and how their outlook about the life changes. And the more, I think, worrying part is that how much this disease is prevalent in the youth and the younger, the demographics there, the children there. So you will find 2 or 3 year old kids who actually have this cancer, and they are surviving at their, they're minimal, right? And the way how they're being operated. So obviously we need more awareness regarding this.
And Haja, at the same time, I think for all of those people who are living with such a disease as well, I think what I would want to say over here on behalf of the entire nation is that we all are praying for you, and, you know, with the support is actually going to be endless, and, you know, inshallah you'll be able to combat with this disease and illness as well, because it definitely takes a stronger mindset to kind of defeat or combat against such an illness, you know, which can be fatal, God forbid. And then just one simple request, you know, and that simple request is that, you know, most of the times what happens is that, you know, we see these dramas and films, and, you know, where most of the times whenever, you know, they certainly do not need a character in the story, so all of a sudden is diagnosed with cancer or such an illness as well. You know, so it's a humble request for people to please do not mention that, God forbid, that, you know, it's because of this disease that this gentleman or this lady has passed away in front of somebody who might be, you know, suffering from the same illness. So please make sure that you don't do that, because it's actually not going to be very motivational for them. It's going to demotivate them, and then there are a couple of thoughts which will come to their mind as well. So please make sure that you're very sensitive about people. You know, when you go over there, when you see somebody, please make sure that you never say such a thing, because God forbid, you never know, it might disturb them.
Thank you so much for giving this very new perspective. And obviously, it also desensitizes the entire issue, because when you are promptly saying that you are taking the focus away and you say that, okay, this is a very normal thing, which should not be very normal. Obviously, we should be talking about it more in a very professional and a sensitive manner, so that the diseases, symptoms are more highlighted and people are aware regarding things.
Exactly. Thank you very much for saying that. Now coming down to the best part, ladies and gentlemen, where Peshawar Zalmi beat Karachi Kings by 2 runs in the thrilling second match of Pakistan Super League 2023 in Karachi. PTV Sports obviously is HD telecasting the match live. Earlier, Karachi Kings captain Imad Wasim won the toss and elected to field first. Batting first, Peshawar Zalmi scored 199 runs for the loss of 5 wickets in allotted 20 overs. And it was such a fascinating match to watch. It was because of the fact that the way Babar Azam played once again, you know, making another half century for himself, and then Cadmore 90 plus runs as well. And then Imad Wasim, from the other hand, making sure that he's going to lead his team, you know, 80 plus score by Mr. Imad Wasim as well. But for Karachi Kings, I think that they've dropped a lot of catches in yesterday's match. And, you know, when you drop catches, you do not win matches. So I think that's something. And having said that, the most interesting bit, Haja, over here was that Babar Azam actually went from Karachi Kings to Peshawar Zalmi, and now he's captaining.
Why this transition?
Yeah, this transition was important because last season wasn't really very great for Karachi Kings, and then Peshawar Zalmi during the draft picked up on Babar Azam and made sure that they're going to take him, rope him in as well. And now Imad Wasim happens to be the captain, and then over here we have Babar Azam. It was a great competition to see and to witness as well. Even the first one, when we talk about Multan Sultan as well, and the other team with Multan Sultan was Lahore Qalandars. Yeah, I think Lahore Qalandar won, and then Peshawar Zalmi won as well. But having said that, ladies and gentlemen, even today, PTV Sports will be telecasting the match live. We will have our transmission of game on here somewhat around 3:30 during the day. Please make sure to tune in, and I will be joined by Mr. Rashid Latif over there. But having said that, Haja, I'm going to take you back where I said that, that these arguments, these problems, these daily life issues we deal with, kind of, I believe, have a great impact on your performance, on your mental health and the way you perform. And then, most of the time what I've seen is that you start to overthink as well. Because then, there's a certain way of doing things for you as a person in your personality that's instilled. But most of the time what happens is that if you have to kind of, manage or mold yourself according to what other person wishes, I think you might have a little bit of trouble.
Yes, that's very true, and thank you so much for pointing that out, because Shahzad, what happens is most of the time that I do feel that our generation is not that tolerant or not that patient when it comes to that. And a lot of time what I feel is, especially on the social discourses, is that people valorize or people humanize the intolerance, and they said that this is their human rights, and just because their elder generations, they were not that aware of that, that is why they were suffering, or that is labeled as oppression. So how much is it that an oppression, and how much we need to inculcate the tolerance and patience into our daily routine, and especially in the age of digital era, where I think social media is also one of the culprit behind that. So we're very, very glad that we have been joined by a clinical psychologist and motivational speaker. She happens to be Ms. Kazmi. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Thank you.
So Mashia, thank you very much. Welcome back once again after a long time. You're back on the show again. But having said that, so today, for our viewers in 46 different countries, our topic precisely is how to solve daily life problems with patience. Patience, we will come down to how to attain that patience. But having said that, why do you think in the first place, we have all of these family issues, and why do you think that they have such a greater impact on our mental health, the way we are performing, the way our day-to-day activities are? Because, they do hinder that at times. या तो फिर बंदा बहुत ही ढीठ हो, फर्क ही कोई ना पड़ता हो, but that's not how it is.
Yes. Thank you so much, Shahzad. The thing is, whenever we talk about the family issues and why they happen, see, everyone in a home or in a family, everyone don't have similar personality. Personality clashes are the main cause, as in you were sharing your own experience, that your perspective of a wedding with your kid was quite different from your
it was
wife.
fascinating,
And I'm glad that you highlighted the main issue, that what she feels. I can relate to it because fathers like that their kids will be with them and they will have fun, but eventually they will be sitting with the male members of the family, and they are discussing only about news and politics, and what mother have to do. They have to cater them the dinner.
Would be talking about the cricket and PSL because he loves that. Yes.
I think that's not how it is. Now Alhamdulillah, wherever I go, it's most of the time people asking me, and then at times I'm like, yeah, how many people am I going to answer about what's going to happen in a match? But having said that, okay, I would want you to take our perspective on this as well. You as a mother, and even I as an anchor person or as a host have actually made sure that we discuss about both the perspectives. So my wife's perspective was that you're not going to look after them, and we have to look after, and then we certainly cannot enjoy the same way that you guys do, and I agree to it. But having said that, for a parent who's actually stepping outside the house to earn and make sure that we have, alhamdulillah, a good living, what he or she is trying to do is that they're trying to spend that quality time with their kids, which they do not certainly get time for in their daily routines. Because, in daily routine, we're not going to our chachu place or anybody place, we just go back home. It's the, middle of the day. And so certainly, fathers are looking forward to, having that trip, okay, putting some songs on, asking some questions in the car. So we were playing that quiz game as well. I liked it. But I don't know, but that argument certainly I felt as if had a pressure on my brain as well, and I certainly do not feel great if any of my family member is not talking to me the way they are usually.
Okay, so the point is, this is a very common example. Usually when parents are going out and earning hard money to spend on the child's career, so what we see in child psychology is that they are pressurizing their kids all the time. You have to do this thing in this time, in this time, in this time. So every time tick, 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 tick is on the mind of kids or the elders or the younger, anyone who is living in a family. So what happens is that we develop our anger issue, anxiety and distress, that whatever I will do, mama is not going to be happy from me.
Yeah.
She is going to say that you are not as good as your cousin is.
True.
So this comparison, if you have, whether is your husband-wife relationship, in your siblings or the relatives or anyone, comparison is the main cause which cause stress in a happy or pleasant life.
And thank you very much for saying that, because I have another example to share over here, and that is that, so Hajan, Qari Saab now comes to our house, because my elder daughter and my middle child are actually attending the Quran classes as well. So just the other day, I was sitting with them and I was trying to listen to them, because we always make sure as a family that somebody is actually attending. Whenever, a teacher comes into our house, so either it's going to be my wife, my mother or my father or me, myself. So imagine that, I could hear Qari Saab saying that, to my elder daughter, that the younger one picks up quicker and, you are slower.
Yes.
And so all of a sudden, I didn't say anything to Qari Saab, but later on I did have this conversation with him that please do not have this comparison in between the sisters themselves. Why would you want to do that? And then Qari Saab, I believe, I'm going to actually appreciate it that, he was like that, I've never thought it this way, but inshallah from now on. So imagine that, one day if my daughter is going to tell me to pick me up, and if I pick her up because she gets off at 12 on my way back, so the other one gets off at 2, the one who actually gets off at 2 does not talk to me the entire day because I didn't go to pick her up. So you really need to kind of make sure that there's equality amongst cousins, brothers, sisters and everybody.
Yes, these things are very badly affecting the mentality or the personality building of a child, because by the age of 12 our personality develop, and we all born with a blank slate of personality, and whatever impression we get from people around, these are imprinted on our personality, like negative talks, or if we feel inferior or someone is superior, and also very sad dilemma of our society that we comment about the weight of kids, we comment about the physical appearances, complexion, education, financial status. All these things are very negative, and slowly and gradually you don't know that I am smiling in front of you, but what people are saying to me is imposing me, or you can say distracting my personality from doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
So we have to be very careful.
And there's this famous dialogue for this. I see it on TikTok every day. Hasde chehre da matlab hai nahi hunda ke banda bade khush hai. Something like that.
That's very true. And speaking of TikTok and all of the social media, so when we talk about the patience and tolerance, so how much do you think our personalities are affected by the use of social media? Because I do feel social media has devolved the power to the grassroots level, where anybody can type anything on the social media without any accountability, right? And if you talk about the Islam's accountability, or hisab is a main element of it, right? So how we need to be more responsible with our words, with our action, with our deeds, and with our whatever you call it, the verbal communication or non-verbal communication, right? So how would you comment on it?
Okay, social media or dramas or anything like that, my mother is patient of depression, and all time whenever I went to her room, she is watching drama. I said, Mama, why you are watching all these dramas? And she says, बेटा और कुछ है नहीं, तक
usually they watch it very religiously.
और वो कहती है यही आ रहे हैं. So why we are just showing a negative aspect of our society, that everyone is killing, everyone is running from their home, everyone is poor, someone is dying from cancer, all this stuff. See, entertainment is something which give you a hope, which give a happiness, enjoyment. Right. But sadly, a total perspective of entertainment is changed just in the case of rating. We are depressed. And again, social media. See, no one, I don't live with this makeup all the time in my home. But whenever I switch on social media, I saw bloggers and everyone, they are all dressed up. Their husbands are bringing flowers for them. Their in-laws are celebrating them. Yes. And if a single person like me watch what they are doing is that they're celebrating Valentine's Day, this gives depression to everyone else around. So what we need is that just to gain a fame or anything, we are showing something very, very fake.
True.
That's true.
Which has no link with our personality or with our real life. Why all these, sorry to say this, why all the celebs which are showcasing their life very beautifully, they got divorced.
And they're very carefully curated.
Why?
I mean that they're not showing their...
And common population has to learn this, that please, if you are impressed from someone else, brother, family, in-laws, husband, please see the graph of their life.
Right.
And go back to their life. If they are divorced or anything bad happened, God forbid, anything bad happened for them, please learn that all those stuff which you were fascinating was not correct, was not real, and that will give you a peace. And everyone has the same life.
Yes, that's very true, and thank you so much for talking about it. And when we say about this piece, so Shehzad, what I nowadays encounter, especially on the social media, is that everyone is giving this lecture of spreading positivity and happiness, and there's a lot of fake positivity in that, right? I mean, when the environment around is not conducive enough, how can you preach anyone to be more positive in front of all of this? So, how does that fake positivity comes into in the equation of the patients that we are discussing?
And in addition to that, I would actually want to kind of ask you about, what you just mentioned, because it certainly did touch my heart, and it's because of the fact that, I think that, for a year or 2 years at least, I got through this problem. So imagine that, you're on social media, you work in the media, everywhere you go, you see such beautiful faces with makeups on, whatnot, life's perfect. And, I would go back home and I would be like, hey, you know what? I think there's something missing. And it took me a year or 2 years time to realize that, hey, you know what, this is just for the camera. People are not doing it for people. In fact, I think that, if you're doing it for the camera, why can't you do it for your husband, or why can't your husband do it for your wife? I think that's one thing, because all of a sudden when it's wedding season, you're like, hey, you know what, that's what I wanted. So I think that, I would want you to kind of comment on this as well, that, how we have so many expectations just because we are so glued to social media these days. When we see people with, going gym and having best figures and whatnot, and then all of a sudden you start to compare them, with your other half, or probably, with other people or cousins or brothers. How do you think that we can kind of get around it and be a better person?
See, another thing which I want to mention is that whenever we see something very fascinating, very perfect with the, Photoshop faces and everything, and when you will look at your partner and you will say, oh, why you have these dark circles? See,
well, you cannot still dare to say that.
All the social media influencers, I respect or beg them that please don't make our society like Pakistan. We are living in a third world country. We don't have that much funds. Our husbands are not that rich that they can finance with all the beauty products or the things which you are showing all the day that you are getting in the PR.
Which is why husbands have to say, natural beauty. I like natural beauty. I
like natural beauty with no makeup. Again, thing is that you talk about the negative comments which celebs or we usually get on our social media, but when we are in good shape, we expose and we impress everyone like, oh, we are at the best of our life. And whenever we gain weight, and whenever we gain weight and someone comment and we were like, oh, these are the people, they don't know anything, why they are bashing us, please. These are the people to whom you have gotten all the publicity, and you have renewed their life, which they are always commenting about their sisters, their friends and their family, and they are rejecting every single girl for the marriage purpose. Oh, she is not that pretty as that blogger or that the film star. So please don't try to spread a negative or the fake happiness which you don't have.
Which does not exist.
Yes.
And it's because of all of those romantic songs we listen to, and we get our feelings and emotions so up high, and we're like, okay, that's how our life will be. That's not reality. That's why we call it a film. That's why we call it a drama. Ladies and gentlemen, they can depict a part of reality, but all of it can never be real. So please make sure that you do not have your expectations in affiliation with what you were going to get in life. But having said that, I think, you know, when we are to kind of talk about, you know, how patience really needs to play a role in our daily life, let's talk about your socio-economic backgrounds as well, because I think it has a lot of impact. Now imagine that, you know, if you're a family of 50 people, 60 people, there's extended family, obviously one family is going to be a champion, the second one's going to be somewhere in the middle, one of them is still struggling. And I don't see this culture that, you know, that the person who's actually sitting on the top enjoying the good life will actually come down and help other people in the family. Rather, you know, he'll be standing at a street corner looking after that, you know, construction of the mosque, which he wants to kind of build for people to come in, but still not very careful about his other family members, which is his responsibility or her responsibility. And having said that, I would actually want to kind of have a word with my viewers as well, that, you know, when we talk about sadaqah and zakat, please forgive me if I'm wrong, but the first one, ladies and gentlemen, to, you know, for you to spend money is your parents. Number two is your wife and children, and that is counted as sadaqah and zakat as well. Number three, you know, people who work for you. You know, so I think
family members in terms of wives are not included in the
no, they are.
You
know, so even so no, not zakat, sadaqah. So even if you spend on your wife or your children, you know, that's actually in Allah's account management. You know, it's actually taken as sadaqah as well. And then after that, you know, people who work with you in the first place, then your friends, extended.
Charity begins at home.
Exactly. Then friends and everybody else, and then fifth one, Allah says that, you know, if you haven't left behind anybody else, then you can obviously give in my name. That's how it is. And, you know, so over here, we're doing it for Allah first, and then we're doing it for other people anyways. So I think I would want you to kind of comment on this, that, you know, from different socio-economic backgrounds, there can be so many troubles within families. Because I've seen for 10 years you've worked, you've made sure that your family is going to have a wonderful life, and that 1 year that you were jobless, your wife is going to tell you, पिछले मेरे पता नहीं 10 जब से तुमसे शादी हुई है कोई खुशी तो मुझे मिली नहीं है. And you having said that, there's a hadith where Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that, you know, if there's any such lady, you know, who has actually said such a thing to her husband, will actually be, you know, for all of those good deeds she might have done for 70 long years will be washed away. So please go ahead.
Okay. So the thing is that when we talk about our comparison between the family related to the socio-economic status, one thing I like to mention here is that it's not like every time who is at the above stage will not support the family at low socio-economic. But the point with this is, Shahzad, that the people who are on the lower, they are always thinking and fascinating why they are eating this dish. They have to give it to us. Why they are not sharing. See, this is hasad, and this is strictly prohibited in Islam, that you are no one to ask question that why Allah has given them this much. So jitna zyada you say that, you will say alhamdulillah or feel contented, you will get more. And another thing is that if someone in my family is doing good, I should be very happy and proud of them, and I try to build my life at my own, not complaining all the time that why he is not giving to me, why he is not giving to me. Again, now coming back to your point, that someone who is blessed by Allah in different kind of things. I want to mention something from Hazrat Ali alayhi salam. मौला का कॉल है कि अगर तुम्हारी ज़रूरतें लोगों की ज़रूरतें तुमसे वाबस्ता हैं तो अल्लाह का शुक्र अदा करो, because Allah can give them.
You are a vessel for Allah.
Allah has blessed you to make you part of that blessing.
That's true.
So don't feel proud or anything like that. Oh, I am the giver. No, no one is giver. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the giver. And if you are in that financial state, never make anyone feel low of you.
Exactly. And, you know, I think it has been said as well that, you know, all you need to do is that just look at, you know, people who might not enjoy the same lifestyle as you are, you know, look below, and then you kind of say thanks to Allah Almighty as well, because gratitude is really important. Shukr alhamdulillah. Having said that, very quickly towards the end, what will be your suggestions today? How do you think that we can overcome our daily issues, you know, with a lot of patience? What would you recommend? What changes do we need to make in our personality?
See, there are 3-4 points which we need to see. First of all, our family bondings, our family love, unconditional bonding with everyone, and we have a strong family background, not in sense of finance, but in support of care, love and affection. Whenever I came back to home from a very bad working routine, very hard day, I know that my mother and my brother and my siblings are there, and they will always my cheerleaders. So I can do anything which is not very easy to do. Secondly, your friends. Friends are very, very important. So please try to make friends. Try to avoid different arguments which you have with your friends. Don't prolong problems. And the third one is concentrate on yourself, your positivity, your religious practice, your namaz, your meditation, and try to find out, because in Pakistan we earn a lot, but whenever it comes to spending, it's very tiny. So we need to create jobs or any other financial resources with the help of our own resources to get a good life. And fourth one is that always try to busy yourself, not in the social media scrolling or anything like that. Please try to help cancer patient, as in there are so many NGOs which are working.
I mean, and lead a life that has a more value-based life,
Yes.
because whatever will happen is that we are always in search of having a bigger goal in the life. So it's not about bigger goals, even the small things that you do to uplift the humanity, for example, helping out a kid, or maybe removing a stone from a road which
Yes.
is causing problems to the
Probably
traffic.
making somebody smile, yeah.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. And the more you do such sort of things, the more your way will clear up in terms of having a bigger goal in the life.
I want to add a dialogue from
Very quickly.
Shah Rukh Khan. Don't underestimate the power of common men. So we all are common men, and don't underestimate your powers.
Yeah. But it wasn't actually by him. I think it was by the writer of the film too as well. But thank you so much, Mashiad, for being with us. Lovely
you
to be in
so
much.
conversation with you. For everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, we're actually heading out towards a short break. When you come back, you know, so okay, these are family issues, but now let's talk about national issues. Let's talk about issues,
Global issues.
which we get because of what we have been doing, unfortunately. After a short break. Good morning.
Welcome back, and today we are going to talk about a very pertinent topic, because obviously we have seen that how this particular issue has affected the entire globe. We are going to talk about the disaster risk reduction and what exactly disaster means. And we have seen recently that there is an earthquake in Syria, in Turkey, and how exactly obviously we cannot help when the infrastructure is collapsing in the aftermath of the disaster, but certainly what we can do is we can help out the humanity there. We can help the people in surviving that very, very difficult conditions or situation there. So to have a more broad conversation regarding DRR strategies, what does that entail, and what are the problems in implementing those strategies, we are going to be joined by a very renowned professor who happens to be Adil Nasir. He is a geologist, and he also CEO of APA, which is All Pakistan Geologists Association. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
So welcome back.
Thank you.
So obviously disaster DRR has been linked to the SDGs, right? And we have seen that recently there are a lot of disasters which are coming in the world, and the intensity has increased, frequency has increased, and there's an entire Sendai framework out there which deals with the DRR policies. Number one, is Pakistan signatory to that, and where does the Pakistan lies in terms of the DRR equation?
Bismillah Rahman Rahim. This is very sensitive and very technical issue. Right. Regarding earthquake. We have seen lot of disaster in the past few years, typically in this region.
True.
Like floods, droughts, and typically nowadays we are listening earthquake.
That's true.
So
I even take smog as a disaster for us.
yes, yes,
True.
typically in Punjab region, smoke is also a very sensitive issue. So if I talk about the earthquake, it's we cannot predict earthquake. Even we cannot predict any natural disaster. But nowadays, you have listened the HARP technology. Due to HARP technology, it's basically function is in US states, yeah, in Atlanta. So it's a very difficult to predict natural disaster, as well as we cannot control, but we can mitigate these issues. We can reduce the risk by applying different methodologies, by applying different scientific methods.
And we would certainly want to talk about that as well. But do we classify disasters? Are there different types of disasters, or do we actually think, okay, that earthquake, flood is actually the same? Because unfortunately, and I've been really, we have been as a team really vocal about it, that we do not have a proactive strategy over in Pakistan.
Yes.
God forbid we do not prepare. Even if we are more vulnerable to climate change, unfortunately, God forbid, we might not be even thinking about that. God forbid if it happens again, what are we going to do? So we're not looking forward to such mechanisms or mitigation as well. But having said that, let's classify first of all, and then what mechanisms are used in different scenarios was certainly what we wanted to talk about.
Right now in Pakistan, we have a National Disaster Management Authority.
Yeah.
It is connected with the Provincial Disaster Management Authority. But with these connectivity, we have different NGOs set up, international organizations, local organizations, like I have seen in Turkey, Pakistani organization Muslim Hands helped a lot of the effects of the Turkey due to the recent earthquake.
True.
So lot of NGOs, lot of government institutions are working on this, but we have a lot of resources in Pakistan. Sometimes NDMA is not well equipped to handle the disaster, because it's a responsibility of Provincial Disaster Management Authority. They have different wings in the provinces, but they are unfortunately not working properly.
Okay. Are they even working?
Sorry?
Are they even working? Because you mentioned that, with Provincial Disaster Management Authority, the wings might not
I
be
have
working
never
properly.
seen this.
Okay, you've never seen this.
Yeah.
But I think it's more linked to the local governments and how much functional they are. So for example, let's talk about Syria. And we have seen in the aftermath of the disaster there, a natural calamity there, we have seen that the access to the humanitarian aid is getting very difficult there, because there are different areas that are controlled by different groups, and especially
sanctions and whatnot.
Exactly, sanctions, and there's not a particular central authority which is prevalent in those particular areas in which there is a storm there. So how much do you think a strong local government helps in the DRR strategies, and how much politics comes into this play?
Yes, this is very important, because at national level we have to make some policies regarding disaster risk assessment, disaster risk management. Risk mitigation is very important. If I talk about the earthquake, there is a seismic hazard risk assessment.
Okay.
We can make some data base according to the provinces, according to the disaster, because every disaster has different consequences. Every disaster has different data sets. So we need to prepare accordingly different data set in order to mitigate risk, in order to immediately response, because response is very important.
Right.
After that, rehabilitation process is very important.
Right.
But even if we are to kind of speak about responses, now imagine that
Right.
I've been a witness to this incident, unfortunately, that I was traveling to north.
Okay.
And so while I was traveling to north, there was a bit of landsliding, and it was
Yes.
it was probably evening time.
Yes.
And then so imagine that for all of those people who were stuck under that rubble, in a truck, kept
Right.
on shouting, and obviously they were crying for their lives.
Obviously.
But imagine that that the response couldn't really be effective, and it's because of the fact that it got dark. And so for all of those rescuers who actually were there, they said that God forbid if we go to help, what if there's some other landsliding taking place as
Yes.
well at that particular moment. So we really need to be more effective, and we kind of need to figure out ways of how we can curb this. But having said that, don't you think that in days to come God forbid, Pakistan is more vulnerable. We're talking about climate change. We're talking about floods to take place. God forbid, every other year. Even though that has been happening before, even in 2010, you know, from there onwards, we have seen floods almost every year in Pakistan. But how do you think that we can actually bring in this proactive approach first of all, then the risk assessment, and how do we build back better?
Basically, vulnerability is dependent upon the people of Pakistan.
Okay.
If you see the
How?
if you see the symmetry in the north region, typically in the Balakot, in the Gilgit, in the Hunza region, the symmetry of houses are unequal. Because of this, we can see the different landslide issues. Because it's a responsibility of local government to educate the people how to build the houses. Likewise, in the developed cities like Islamabad, like Karachi, like Lahore, in Islamabad, CDA is a development authority. You cannot build house even without the approval of the Capital Development Authority. Same like the Provincial Disaster Management Authority have such authorities like this to how we can construct, and this is the responsibility of local government, that what are different criterias of building of houses. So basically, local government is responsible like that. And secondly, we need to educate people. We need to educate people through diverse programs. We need to educate people through different trainings at local level. So when we will groom the people, we will definitely mitigate the risk. So these are the very important parameters. But unfortunately, local government are not working properly. They don't know how we are responsible and what sort of plans we have to prepare at national level and what sort of strategies we have to recommend at the policy.
And thank you very much for saying that, because otherwise now, you know, there's one more question, because imagine that, you know, that the entire nation was in a panic, God forbid, because, you know, unfortunately what happened in Turkey, Syria and Lebanon, we did see this news article going around, and, you know, while Haja, I think that we were very responsible with that, you know, we kind of mentioned that everybody needs to put in their research. But having said that, since you happen to be an expert, do you think that anybody out there can actually predict or kind of have such a mechanism with which they can calculate that, God forbid, in next 15 days, you know, that seismic activity is actually going to just take place under where Pakistan lies, or, you know, in the neighboring countries as well? Do you think we have such a mechanism?
Yeah, this is a very important and hot debating topic nowadays, that how we can predict earthquake. Scientifically, we don't have any research over the world that can predict earthquake. It's a natural phenomena. It's a movement of plate tectonics. Gondwana was the supercontinent. It breaks into the two pieces. The one is called Laurentia, and the other one is called Gondwana. So Pangaea was broken into the two pieces. We have Gondwana and Laurentia, and after that we have 15 tectonic plates. And over these plates we have different faults. So this is a very technical phenomena. Energy is accumulated inside the earth. So we don't know how much energy is accumulated and when it is going to release. So it is very unpredictable. Nobody in the world can predict this phenomenon.
And obviously, I think no one can say what is going to happen in future except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's very true, right? So let's talk about the poverty, and let's talk about how the vulnerable people in the aftermath of the disaster, they're very vulnerable to poverty. For example, in Syria and Turkey, we have seen obviously they have to start back from the scratch, and there's entire ruble out there. And how much, and those people who are actually fleeing the conflicts, I think they're more vulnerable to the disasters. For example, we have seen that when there was a mass exodus from the Syria or Afghanistan, and people were fleeing to the Europe, and we have seen that how many boats were capsizing in the sea, and they were even more vulnerable to the disasters out there. So do you think that globally there is a comprehensive policy to deal with the DRR, disaster risk reduction, in that sense?
Yes, we have at national level or international level, we have different policies. Like in the Charter of the United Nations, we have different policies regarding mitigation, risk assessment, response and rehabilitation. But unfortunately, it's very difficult to implement in all those countries who are connected with these policies. So it's a weakness at international level as well as at national level.
Right.
Exactly.
And those, especially when we talked about those fleeing the violence, especially when it comes to the conflict at their homes, and then those who are moving to the other places in search of, I mean, better living standards and better life. Obviously, they are more vulnerable to the conflicts out there. So let's talk about the hazard mapping, right? How much it is important to have a comprehensive planning in order to map what are the hazards there and how many people are vulnerable to that, and then having a good and comprehensive early warning indication system across the globe, not just in Pakistan, right? So what is the importance of that, and especially when it comes to the academic studies, since you are an expert in that, what are the research says in this regard?
And what is the role of such institutions as well?
Hazard assessment is very important. Like we have a different catalog of people. For example, in catalog we have ages 5 to 15 years age and 58 to 68 years age. These are the vulnerable people. If they see any disaster, they make in their mind like such disaster. So hazard mapping is dependent upon the cataloging of different earthquakes of previous activities regarding disaster risk management, related to landsliding. We have collect different data set. Then we have to conduct different surveys. Then we need to prepare accordingly, and we will prepare the maps of different risk hazard assessment.
Right. And one more thing before we wrap up our show, Shahzad. So I was really glad that our government or our state was very responsible, especially in the aftermath of the floods or any such sort of calamities, maybe it the pandemic, that we had a comprehensive system where the news was coming. So for example, in the aftermath of the disaster or any such of calamity, we see that there's a lot of fake news, misinformation, disinformation that gets viral, and that creates more panic into the public out there. So for example, we have seen that how there was the news circulating where they said that Pakistan is also vulnerable to such kind of earthquakes, but that was not coming from an authentic source, right? So I think we as a personals of the media, we need to be very responsible about what sort of information we are propagating out there, which is not, creating a mass panic among the people. So how do you comment on the role of media and the DRR?
Media should publish some reliable news.
That's true.
And avoid fake news, because a lot of people in the social media, they don't know, have any knowledge regarding earthquake, regarding floods, and we have heard a HARP technology, but people don't know actually what is HARP technology and how it works.
There are a lot of conspiracy theories regarding it, right?
We can generate artificial rain by using HARP technology, but we cannot generate any earthquake with HARP technology.
And thank you very much for saying that as well, and thank you very much, Professor Saab, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you. And at the same time, I think I would want to kind of suggest over here, it's a humble suggestion and submission to people who are out there, that please make sure that you put in your own research. Please make sure that you do not blindfoldly, just accept whatever the other person or whatever one media house has to say. Put in your research, have your comprehension skills sharpen a little bit as well, because that's something which is really very important. So if you go back in time, whenever we used to do this comprehension exercise, we used to actually get questions, and then we were supposed to find answers from that one paragraph. You do it the other way around. I think that's how people really need to think about it. So you get the answers, think about the question, what the question really needs to be. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, look after yourselves. And please make sure that you remember us, the entire Pakistani nation and the globe out there in your prayers as well. Having said that, 1, 2, 3,
good morning.